Good morning, Algebra 2. I'm sorry, Algebra 1. Today we're going to do Apex, Semester 2, Chapter 3, Section 4. And we're going to start talking about properties of quadratics. So a quadratic, remember, is a quadratic is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. The shape of a quadratic graph is a parabola, and it's either going to go up like this or it's going to go down like this. Okay, so here the parabola opens up if a is positive. So this number right here, if it's positive, okay, then the parabola is going to open upwards. If a is negative, okay, the parabola is going to open downwards. So what this means is if it opens up, then this y value right here at the vertex is a minimum. It's the very lowest it can go. And this is your vertex. And if it opens downwards, then that y value is the very, very highest it can go. And so it's called a maximum. All right, so let's take a look at, we're going to have to figure out how to graph these things and how to find things like the vertex. And your maximum or minimum, which way it opens, okay? So your axis of symmetry, that's your x. So that's the x of your vertex, okay? The formula for that is negative b over 2a, okay? And then here it shows the y of your vertex. What that means is that you plug x back in. Plug x back in, and that's how you get your y value for your vertex, okay? And then your y-intercept is always this c value here, okay? So whatever value this is where this is going to touch your y-axis. Okay? So let's go on ahead. It's going to make more sense, I think, as we work some problems. So this says describe it, and then we're going to actually graph it. So the first thing it's asking us is which way does it open? Well, that's a negative, so that means that's really a -1 is my a value. Okay, my b value is a 4 and my c value is -6. Okay, so my a value is -1, so that means this is going to open downward. Okay. So that means I know that my y of my vertex is going to be a maximum because it's going to look like this. Okay, and my vertex will be right there. So my axis. Okay, so now I'm going to find my axis of symmetry is what this is asking. So x equals -b over 2a, and you guys really need to memorize these formulas, okay? These are very important. You will continue to use these. So -b over 2a, so my b is 4, so I'm going to put -4 over 2 times -1. So that's -4 over -2, which equals +2. Okay, so for my vertex now, I know that my x part is 2. Okay, but now I have to find my y. Okay, so to find my y, I'm going to do f of 2. Okay? So remember, this is my y value, and this right here is what I'm going to plug in for x. So it's going to be -2 squared. And keep in mind that that x value is positive. So you're going to have to square that and then plop that negative onto it. So 2 squared, right? My x squared is 4, and then it's times -1. Okay, so that's going to be -4. Plus 4 times 2 minus 6. So plus 8 minus 6. So -4 plus 8 is +4 minus 6 is -2. Okay, so now my vertex is going to be at 2, -2. My y-intercept is my c value. So my y-intercept is going to be at 0, -6. Okay? And you want to write this as a coordinate because that's what it is. Okay? Well, so a couple of things. Remember that this is a mirror image, right? So, you know, whatever the point is on this side, right, it's got to be the exact same length on that side. So right now I could already say, okay, well, this is here and it's 2 away, okay, from that middle. So I know that I'm going to have a point there 2 away. Okay, but now this is where our pattern comes in. So our pattern is always going to be 1a over 1, 3a over 1, 5a over 1. You don't usually have to go any further than that. Okay? So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to plug this a value in. So 1 times -1 over 1 is just -1 over 1. Same thing here. 3 times -1 over 1 is -3 over 1. Okay, so this is really our rise, and this is our run. Except for our run, it's going to be out on both sides. Because remember, it's a mirror image. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, from my vertex, I'm going to do my first pattern. Okay, so from my vertex, I'm going to go down 1, out 1 on both sides, because it was down 1, -1, out 1 on both sides. Okay, so when you are doing these, unlike with a slope, the numerator, the top number, is always the one that would have that negative sign if it's negative. Okay, the denominator is always going to be a positive number because we're going to be going outward. Okay. All right, so now let's go on ahead and do our -3 over 1. Now, for those, we start at these points. Okay, so we're going to start here and we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, out 1. Down 1, 2, 3, out 1. And you see we landed on that y-intercept that we know, and its mirror image. Okay, from there, we could do 5 if we want, but as long as you have a couple of points in here, you're pretty good. This one would actually come off the graph, so we don't have to worry about that. So now our graph is completed. Okay, so that is the first example we're going to do. We're going to do at least one more here. All right, so oh no, I lied. That was the only example we were doing for that. All right, so now we're going to talk about vertex form of a quadratic. So this one's a little bit easier in some ways and harder in others. So with vertex form, you're actually given your vertex right here. Okay, so positive HK is the vertex. So for your H, you have to actually change the sign. So change the sign on the H because there's a negative there. Okay, and then the K is the same sign. All right, so to graph a parabola from vertex form, the very first thing is you're going to start by identifying and plotting the vertex. So, and then from there, we'll do our pattern. So let's take a look. So our vertex here, this is a +2, this is a -7. So my H, I always change the sign on, and my K, the sign stays the same. So my vertex I know is -2, -7. So on this one, I don't know what my y-intercept is. So I'm just going to have to rely on my pattern. Okay, so here is our A. That's our A. So our A value here is -4. Okay, so we know this thing should be opening downward. Okay. So I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to do my pattern: 1A over 1, 3A over 1, 5A over 1. I'm probably only going to get 1 out of this, if that. Okay, so here I'm going to plug A in. So 1 times -4 over 1, and that gives me -4 over 1. So remember, my run is going to be, or my rise, sorry, is going to be -4, and my run is going to be out 1 on both sides. All right, so I'm going to go on ahead and graph that. I'll just keep using red. So I'm going to go down 4, kind of runs out of room here, and out 1 on both sides. Okay, so my parabola would look something like that. Okay. So that is vertex form. You're going to have to know that also, especially once you get into Algebra 2 and calculus, because we use this form all the time. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at one more concept for 3.4. This is going to talk about factors. So if A is the x-coordinate of an x-intercept, in other words, if we have a parabola, okay, and it touches the x-axis right there. Okay, so if A is the x-coordinate of an x-intercept, in other words, if this coordinate is 2, 0, then my A equals 2. So that means that my factor would be x minus 2. So you just change the sign, and really all you're doing to get that is you're getting this side to 0, so you're subtracting 2 from both sides. Okay, so you really get A minus 2 equals 0. But as a factor, we're going to write it as x minus 2. Okay. The steps to write the equation of a parabola when we're given the x-intercept. The very first thing, we're going to start with the x-coordinates of the x-intercepts, and we're going to write them as factors. Then we're going to multiply them together. We're going to FOIL them. And then we're going to write the product in an equation to y. Okay, so let's just start with this. So we're going to take our two x values of our x-intercepts. We know that these are x-intercepts because the y value is 0. Okay? X-intercepts always have a y value of 0. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite these as my factors. And remember, I take this and I put the opposite sign there. Okay, and I take this one and I'm going to put the opposite sign. And now I'm just going to FOIL them. So my first, outer, inner, last. So x times x is x squared. Outer is negative 4x. Inner is negative 2x. And my last is negative 2 times negative 4, which is 8. Okay, combine my like terms there. So I have x squared minus 6x plus 8. And then the very last thing, I'm going to write the product in an equation equal to y. So it would be y equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. Or, right, remember that y is the same thing as f of x. So f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. Okay, and that's it. Okay, one of those is your answer. Okay. So go on ahead and do your quiz or your assignment for 3.4 and have a great evening.